I think we all kind of meet each other in interesting ways. We met at collaborating on a project, and I think like it's just interesting to see how we're all adapting to the opportunity. And I think about both of you today as people that didn't just show up and discover robots. Like I think you've been building for a long time, both of your careers, and I'm excited for people to meet you and learn about everything you've done before this moment. But between Grail and what you and your partner are building there, and then also just you as an artist, and I think that's probably my biggest curiosity with you of like, how do both of you also just get selfish and seize like, what do I want to do in this moment? And I see both of you in the talks you do, the public
Mhm.
speaking, but also in your actions speaking loud in the world words like you drop in my DMs, like your the film you're always dropping new episodes of every day. So it's just so cool to see that you're walking the walk and also maybe finding where this ultimately delivers for you.
Mhm.
But
Well,
really
that's how
back
it
over to you.
started, really. Yeah,
Turning the mic over
that's
to you. Excited.
yeah, that's a great jump off point. I I got into a version of AI like back in '99 because my background is in computer science and engineering. I've always been an artist and creative, but too much of an artist to go to art school. I've had really bad personal experiences with art teachers, etc. But was always trying to go at my own pace, etc. But was also very interested in the tech side of things. So I was convinced in this idea that technology went in service of the creative mind that could create that connective tissue that allows us to do big things. So from, over the course of the past 20 years, I've kind of been at that intersection point between creative technology and storytelling with a firm belief that, tech in service of story will get us to better stories being told and unlock big things, etc. So I've seen different iterations of AI from, literally programming robots to getting out of a maze to doing prediction behavioral studies and then early generative AI in the sense of like what the music industry used for like projection mapping and things like that. Then I worked on a project with Campari and Wunderman Thompson called Fellini Forward, which goes back to 2018 and premiered in Venice in 21, right after the COVID lockdown, and was technically the first AI film where we created a stack of tools we're using with like GPT 1.5 at the time to understand if you could understand what Fellini-esque means and kind of listen to the ghost in the machine to let Fellini basically help and assist the director on a set in creating a new short for Campari. Campari being the big sponsor of the Venice Film Festival, et cetera, et cetera. And then when I was invited to the open alpha of Midjourney, then that's when I connected the dots, and I basically knew that everything was going to change because essentially we're now shifting from imagine if to take a look at this. And that's a big shift because throughout these 20 years where I've basically covered every role you can think of within the production pipeline, starting from artist, digital mech painter, 3D artist, 2.5D animation, Flash immersive websites, game design, then moved on to the gaming and entertainment side of things, helping like studios like Sony Online Entertainment to create new IPs, launch new IPs. Same thing with the movie studios, like how you do an activation at Comic Con, how do you do social integrated campaigns to launch Stranger Things, et cetera, et cetera. The thing that was always constant was how many great ideas die in a meeting because the person doesn't visualize what you're trying to pitch them. So being able to go from, okay, hear me out, picture this, blah, 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 to take a look at this play and then play a sizzle, even if it isn't, it wasn't at the level that it is now today. Like today, we're getting close to blockbuster movie quality. Sure, there's still things here that fall apart, et cetera. But for the purpose of pitching, for the purpose of selling, and now even production, it is a huge shift because it's the big unlock that allows you to go from would you bet on this to now this looks amazing. I'm comfortable putting the money on this. And I've always come at it from a business perspective as opposed to just trying to experiment. I mean, the experimentation part of me as an artist, but as a business person, it's always like, how can I reduce the friction? How can I increment the creative capabilities of what is being done? And how do we, and this is big because the shift means new stories, new voices can be heard, It doesn't have to always be a remake of a remake of a remake because it has a built-in audience, et cetera, et cetera. So now we can experiment with things in the wild and then package them in a way that makes financial sense for a studio, et cetera. So, but at the end of the day, this also all started with pure escapism because I needed 2 hours out of my day to decompress from dealing with insanity on the client side and with a 1-year-old newborn baby on the other side. So I was like, from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m., I'm going to carve out 2 hours for me to just unload the million scripts and stories and characters that over the past of the 20 years I've always wanted to put on paper or wanted to bring to life and just let them escape my head. And that was liberating. Like that was the first thing that I say my love with AI is because it literally is liberating. It's freeing. It's noisy up here. Being able to let them out, it's like it feels amazing. And then you sit with them, you let them breathe, you let them kind of gain shape and form, and you connect this with that one, and then you figure out, okay, this was a quick sketch. This could be an actual episode. This concept falls apart. It was good for a quick, exploration or whatever. There's some key learnings. This could become a feature, and then, from there and it's things can happen. But that was my first approach with it, and it has stayed so. I need to keep the creative part fully integrated into it. I'm a firm believer of like I don't like to just talk. Like I need to fully know and experiment, be in the trenches, be fully integrated with the production team. And having the client side experience allows me to also back my tech side with the creative side with the business side and conversations with studios and big clients, et cetera, as opposed to like, let me ask the team, because that's always been in my experience. An agency comes in, sells in a concept. We're going to do this with AR. No, you can't do that because technically it's not feasible. Now this concept is sold. How are you going to fix it? So I always want to have a healthy conversation, a solid understanding of where we are and what can and cannot be done. And if there's new ground that needs to be broken, then it's an R&D mindset. So this hasn't been done yet. Let's see where we can get to it. This is what's possible today. By next week's 2 weeks is probably going to be different because we're moving at lightning speed. So all of that but I have to have the creative outlet. If you remove that, it makes no sense for me to get involved in this.
So, I mean, again, I love how you're allowing yourself to speak to narratives at the same time, because there's like the how do you build a business, but then there, in some ways, how do you build a business is informed by you exploring what's possible as an
Mhm.
artist. And I want to go down both roads with you because I think what Grail is very interesting. And I think even what that implies on how even the way you're building a notion of a studio. I mean, we all say things like next gen and everything's very futuristic, but at some point it's like, well, what did you do with that moment, and who are you bringing into your tent? Who are you bringing into your process? That's interesting. But again, maybe just to start with the videos you send as people get to
Sure.
know
Yeah.
your work,
Okay.
which I love that DM from you. I always appreciate the LinkedIn, like, check this out. And I feel like everybody should get a taste of that. I'm going to bring that up. And I
Yeah.
wonder if you want to talk about Children of the Earth, right?
Yeah, Children of the Earth is a micro episode series that I'm working on. It's a world, and it all started from a script that I loosely put down on paper almost 10 years ago. It's a personal take on what is an eco dystopian zombie clash. So it's almost like it takes inspiration from the zombie genre. Me being Italian, big fan of the Romero, Mario Bava, Fulci, the whole zombie genre, but also Native American lore and things of like nature claiming its place and restoring the balance in a way. And I've been kind of tinkering with this based on where we are with the technology and created little character vignettes. It's almost like an anthology of shorts. But I don't think there's audio coming through this one. It's a little
I can
choppy,
I
but
just I can bring audio up. I was
okay.
just didn't want it to fight your commentary.
Okay,
But
yeah,
you,
sure.
you
I
want to
can
listen
leave
to
the
this a
play,
little
I
bit?
guess, in the background. This one is called the River Claiming, so it's the third episode in the series so far. And I had originally designed it to be 3 standalone episodes, but it's pretty obvious that it's going to keep on going. Um, and in a way, it's like me testing where we are with new tools, and see if I can expand and elevate the narrative, bring realism to the acting, but also to technical things. Like specifically for this one, I started in mind with the sequence that you see right here is like, okay, how far can I push realism with like these beings basically emerging from the water. Basically, the idea here is that everything that ever lived gets brought back to life by nature. And when we kind of go too far, messing up the planet, nature sends back the children of the earth to restore the balance in a way. So it's kind of like the legends of like the skinwalkers, the Wendigos, but kind of like mixed almost with like the zombie lore. And that's it. So
Well, it's so cool and it's interesting. I mean, we could go back and watch those two girls talking. I think for anybody that's been going down the lip sync and human performance adventures of AI, know that we're excited about our journeys on the Uncanny Valley, but there's still a few little
but
crevasses to
see,
cross.
and this was also the experiment with this one. I wanted to ground it in reality first. That's why it starts with a full 2 minutes conversation of like two girls talking about having a crush on this guy.
Yeah,
And
let's
it's
take a
like, because
listen.
that immediately makes you relate and it lets it breathe. And it's a slow crawl by design. It's supposed to be like dragging, and then it hits you with like, oh, there's a supernatural twist, a little bit unexpected, and then you bring the two together. Because if I start from the zombies, like we've seen that a million times, but like, how do they fit in the picture? And how does it make it, relevant to them? So that was a little bit of the exercise too, and trying to get realism in the, for what this was when 3.1 VO came out, I think. So I was really
Let's
trying to test.
Yeah, let's take a listen. I want people to hear how you executed it.
Like, not at all. That's more like, please come ruin my life right now type of energy. He is so hot though. Yeah. And so is lava. Doesn't mean you dive into it. I don't know. There's just something about him, He's really sweet. Yeah, I don't know, maybe. But for some reason, you think he is a douchebag. He's not boyfriend material, Mara. He's the feel cute, get ghosted starter pack. And why do you even care, Kelly? Because I don't want your sweet little heart crushed like a rotting peach. That's my job.
So you admit it, I am sweet.
Oh, yeah. Sickeningly sweet. Hold on. I think if we cut through the creek trail, we should get there a bit quicker.
Super cool, obviously. I mean, I want people to jump in with questions, but I'll just say, like, I can only imagine on the let's call it regular set, just how much work it takes to put on that makeup and all those outfits that are probably interact with water in interesting ways and are probably annoying when the water washes it off. And there's all kinds of
Yep.
things that we're like, oh, that's so cool. But like, your ability to iterate it and maybe
Yep.
say this is the better way to do that VFX. And now it's VFX, it's not practical effects. And that's all kinds of, loaded conversations about what are the implications of that. But just you as someone, like you said, with all this like backlog of ideas, and in this case, this is one that you've been iterating. And I imagine even its own journey of where's the technology
It's
each
also a
time.
personal love letter to Midwest America. Like when I'm originally from Italy, I came to the States as an exchange student in '98, and I lived in Ohio, around Yellow Springs, Ohio, which is where Dave Chappelle lives. Which these
I was gonna say,
places
I
are
thought that's where David Chappelle is. Amazing.
yeah, no, I lived in, and then I went back to Italy to finish high school one more year and came back for college. So I lived in that place for about 6 years. All these places are real. So that mood, that look, that creek, those like that's all built in my mind. And it was almost like, okay, I created like Moonlight Springs as almost like my Castle Rock for Stephen King. Is like it's a place that I keep on going back to tell different stories, and there's a whole lore that's built into it where like the springs are almost like a mouth to the earth, and they're called Moonlight Springs because the bottom of the springs has mineral that when the moon shines it makes it glow with this weird eerie thing. So there's a whole like lore built into it. But again, that's what I mean when I talk about stories. Because like for the longest time, I was doing that also by just straight traditional illustration. If I have to create a character for a video game, it's sure the assignment might be concept art. Sure, show me like a female dragon slayer, but like as I'm illustrating it, it's like, okay, she has this scar on the face because she's battled with this thing. Her dad comes from this tribe, has this. You build stories in the back of your head to justify why visual elements exist. And that's kind of like what I've done my whole career, regardless of the medium. And I think this allows us to even further emphasize things and further world build and create a bigger sandbox. And starting bigger and then restrain yourself is the exercise that I think is very constructive, as opposed to like quick brush strokes. So like, yeah, but this doesn't connect with that. Well, whereas if you let it sit, you let it brew, then like if it feels cohesive, then it's easier to pull back and then slowly toss and drip things that make sense and let the audience connect.
So I'm curious. I mean, and I'm looking at your past, and you helped. You worked on American Gods and big series, but if I'm not mistaken, often at launch stage or strategy level, like it's not like you wrote American Gods. I mean, only one person gets to do it. But I just mean like, but if I'm understanding, I think your place in all of this iconic TV was often in the marketing, branding, strategy layer. Here you are introducing IP. You're creating your own things. In some ways,
I've always also worked on production side with like in the gaming industry, for instance, like, when the big boom from mobile or even social, like I worked with James Patterson and Sony Online Entertainment to create uh, one of the first Facebook games where like it was like super like immersive, murder crime type of thing, levels, clues, hidden object finders, whatever. And then you would build cutscenes into that. So you need to have scripting and storytelling to be able to connect levels and all that. Yeah.
And I didn't mean to. I hope that didn't sound like I was minimizing. I guess what I'm saying is here you're creating IP. This is you. This is your thing. And if this is NDA'd or none of anybody's business, because you, how's it going? Are people noticing Children of the Earth? Is this doing the thing? Are you getting interest? Is this?
I'm definitely getting interest. Yes. The industry is also shifting to the point where like the type of things that I might have necessarily been looking for a few years ago are no longer the one that really interest me unless they are set up in a very specific way. And what I mean is that there was always a major trade-off in terms of giving away ownership, giving away power, giving away say-so when you go to a studio and they decide, okay, I want to adapt this into a movie, but I'm going to use my pre-approved writer. I'm going to use my director that has a track record of doing this and that. Or if it's a show, it's such and such showrunner is pre-approved to work with Netflix and Amazon or whatever. Yeah, all of those things where you end up being a consultant in a way. Whereas here with micro episodic content, proving that you can build a sandbox that has a follower base that becomes revenue generating if you do it the right way, there may like personally, there's more interested in finding a licensing deal approach for merch, for adaptations, and to expand the ecosystem as opposed to signing off and giving away the rights to go and do whatever you want with it. So again, I think different times, different mindset. I'm very fascinated coming from where I come from with the term transmedia. I've always hated it, but now we're finally shifting from single medium to ecosystems, which is very, very interesting. And the idea of like, okay, I'll park this on YouTube. It will generate X amount of views. It might not generate revenue and monetize like a traditional series would, but the eyeballs in turn give me the leverage to be able to license a merch deal with a toy maker and do the Children of the Earth toys that might end up actually giving me more revenue back in my personal pocket as if I would have given it to Netflix or whatever, and then be completely locked out of the exploitable rights part of the deal, because that's a boilerplate that they are not willing to negotiate.
I mean, we need to devote a whole return visit
Yeah,
for you.
sorry, I just
I
dropped.
know,
I'm
because
doing
I
too
think
much.
that's its next chapter. I'm just seeing a few questions of, first of all, distribution and new monetization, probably the most important thing all of us should be talking about. But flagging a couple of questions already. Did you just use VO 3.1, or are there other tools in your workflow? I think I saw Dream
No, I
and
think
Dance. Yeah.
I did. So, image generation was Midjourney, Dream, and Nano Banana. Video was Kling, Dance, and VO 3.1.
Like the four
All the
horsemen.
talking was 3.1 because it's the best one. The simulation of physics and stuff a lot was Kling. I think at the time was 2.5 master or 2.2 master. I don't remember. And then Dance strangely performs very, very well with a native 4K output. So it's super sharp, as opposed to the only gripe that I have with VO and this one specifically is that you can see some of the less defined details when it comes to the talking shots, as opposed to everything else, because it's 720 upscale.
It's amazing. Like, what a difference a year makes. Can you imagine us last year complaining about this stuff? But we're getting very used to it.
A year ago, we were complaining that the wheels on the Coke truck were not spinning.
Yeah. Quick question. How long did that take, that piece?
Mind you, it was in my head for months. From when I actually started putting it together to finish, I think I did it in a little under 2 weeks.
Got it. All right, that was Alan had that question, and I think you've been hitting the notion of workflow generally. I want to get Winston's question, who raised his hand.
So somebody said, well, sound design is nice. That is one element that I obsess about with these type of things. I also have a background in music and producing and doing that. I literally am in my kitchen recording Foldies with microphones and doing weird, like going outside, getting twigs from my backyard, snapping, cracking leaves and whatever, just to get that layer.
That's old Star Wars. That's like Star Wars moves, right? I love that.
I love that. It just keeps it analog where it needs to be analog.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. Winston, what was your question?
Oh, yes. Your sound design was great. You answered most of my questions. I wanted to know about the voice. Were you using VO3 because yours didn't have that AI buzz in it? So how did you clean up the voice?
I clean it up. So there's, all right, I'll give you a little nugget of, if you use CapCut, there is a way for you to isolate and clean noise from the audio track that it gives you. So basically, you import the track, you basically split the music from the voice, keep the voice, then run the voice through the cleaner and ditch the background music, because every clip that VO gives you, even if you force prompt like no music, no whatever, it's still going to give you that. So it's a matter of like keeping some sound where you want to use it as accents, but then all the sound design was done, by me, like from the wind to the sound of the woods to the water and then footsteps and everything. But the voice, you can dehiss and clean up that voice pretty nicely, even with the auto, the toggle in CapCut, and then export to that audio track.
Awesome.
Thank you, Winston. And somebody asked, are you planning on using Kling 2.6 Motion? I mean, I'm guessing these are all good tools. Yeah, they're all great. Great tools. Amazing. I want to make some space to talk about Grail before we say hi to Stephen. But I mean, I'm going to just pull up that, just the website, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about kind of what is Grail.
So Grail is a entertainment studio and management company powered by AI. I'm co-founder and chief creative officer and chief of tech innovation officer. My business partner and CEO is Jeff Krelitz. We started Grail because shortly after I co-directed the Holidays Are Coming TV spot, There was a lot of interest in both commercial side of things, but also for all the reasons that we've been discussing. Both Jeff and I have always been really interested in breathing new life into projects that were otherwise deemed too risky, too cost prohibitive, et cetera. It's the stuff that was stuck in production limbo, et cetera, et cetera. So at a 30,000 foot view, basically, Grail operates in 4 separate pillars. So one is original and adapted IP. So we have our own slate of original concepts, just like this, that can be episodic, it can be TV, it can be feature, et cetera, et cetera. And both original as well as adapted. Jeff was prior to Grail was the CEO of Heavy Metal magazine. I don't know if you guys are familiar with heavy metal, but it's basically HBO on the page, and it's sci-fi, fantasy, and metal music. So he has a great relationship with a lot of comic book artists, a lot of comic book writers, starting from Grant Morrison, ending with Kevin Eastman, who created the Ninja Turtles, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a pool of people, personal friends, and colleagues that we really, really have been wanting to do a lot of things with for a long time, and just felt right to do this now. So that's one pillar. 2 is advertising. So just like the Coke stuff. Again, I co-directed the Holidays Are Coming TV spot. From there, we have a lot of projects ongoing with both Coke and as well as other Fortune 500 companies that are going to slowly start trickling down in the next few months. I think we estimated that between mid-Feb and June, we have roughly 85 pieces of content dropping just on the commercial side. And then there's VFX, which is similar to services, but strictly for the entertainment industry. And that means pre-production, production, post, wherever you fit in the pipeline. And Fred, that was kind of like similarly to the way that we kind of interacted in some way, shape, or form. And then management. We're a management company. We're not an agency. That's a big key difference, because in the state of California, specifically, to claim that you are an agency and represent the talent, you have to be certified. We manage talent, and then basically we have a relationship with CAA, UTA, WME, et cetera, et cetera. But essentially, on that side, we operate the same way that propaganda films did in the 90s. We identify who we think is part of the next wave of visionary filmmakers. And these tend to be all people that come in one way, shape, or form from the traditional world, but have fully embraced the new emerging tools. Guys and women that understand how to tell a story, how to block a scene, how to get coverage, how to edit, and now are embracing AI to basically creatively elevate their ideas and their craft. They're not people that stumbled across a subscription of Runway like yesterday and just call themselves filmmakers. And I harp on the idea of filmmakers because that's what I mean. It's filmmakers. It's people that come with a pedigree. In some cases, Emmy Award-winning writers, directors, producers, etc., that are just trying to unlock what is next, as opposed to being told to come back with a different script, lower budget, whatever it is. So,
by the way, for people that don't, I hope get the propaganda reference. That just near and dear to my heart. It's not like Russian propaganda. It's there's an incredible company from the 90s that later on became a company I worked at called Anonymous Content. It's sort of, I don't know if they rebranded, they just reinvented, but it's basically where Spike Jonze and David Fincher, Michael Bay, and I think what you're alluding to is I think a lot of people feel this way, and it's interesting to build a company like Grail.
You wouldn't have, propaganda films define the look of cinema. From Fincher creating the title sequence to Spike starting directing girl skateboard videos, and then ended up doing whatever he does, and Chris Cunningham changing completely the music video scene with Always Full of Love for Bjork. Like, they created the foundational building blocks from which modern cinema is built up. The 90s look comes out of propaganda films. But they were the ones who were like, okay, this guy is making skateboard videos. Maybe he should direct the music video and then get him a feature. It was the connecting the dots that the traditional studio system was not doing or was not allowing for. They were kind of like the ILMs of the production company in a way. Like it takes the outsider kids to break the mold to change the way their things need to be done forward. And that's kind of like the inspiration for what we are.
It's a good inspiration,
Like,
and I would even say it's also an interesting thesis. I mean, the other layer to propaganda films is most of those directors were working in music videos, which at the
Yep.
time was a very well-funded setup medium for shorts, right? Like David
Yep.
Fincher does a Madonna Vogue video, Spike Jonze does a BC Boy Sabotage video. If all the Gen Xers get those references, yay, and
Yep.
for the rest of you, sorry. But but those were basically things like you say created a look, but they also created a thesis that this is where experimentation was allowed to happen. And then that, sort of allowed people to try things that would normally be too high stakes for a whole movie. And then Being John Malkovich comes out of that, or Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. But it's a great thesis. I love it. And whatever that insert here instead of music videos is what AI is natively doing with all these shorts and all these things that are populating our social feeds. I think there's a good thesis there of what could be happening for a new wave. And it sounds like you're positioning yourself literally to be that type of place for that amazing collection of partners that you've brought together. Obviously, if people have more questions, but anything you would say back to the community here, how people can work with you. Obviously, we can follow you in your socials, but anything you want to put out as a call to action or things you want, how can we work with you?
I just reach out, and then if you're in the space, like, experiment, just like learn the tools, but don't use AI as a shortcut, and don't use AI as a strategy, because that's the two big falls. Like, if you use AI to be the shortcut to creativity, then you're only going to get AI slop because it was slop before. It was traditional slop before being AI slop. If your TV spot was crap before, it's going to be AI crap now. But also, don't use AI just because it's trendy. Just don't use AI because it's now the strategy to, like, post this on LinkedIn and this was done this way or that. Just stick with it. Like, let the execution be the one thing that is the final stage, but let it breathe in your head, let it make sense, let the characters, build and shape and take form. And also and also just study everything that comes before, because again, otherwise it's just pretty pictures. But that if you don't have the emotional resonance, if you don't have is it a story that's worth telling? Does it resonate with the audience? Is it told in an interesting way? How is it different from everything else? Otherwise, it's just that what we don't want is to normalize average. And that's a big risk. And it's also what the big tech companies are trying to do in our road to full automation, and what we have to fight against at each and every step, because otherwise we lose control.
Amazing. I just want to hit a couple specific questions people had before we transition. And I know you got to run, but there was a question about, are you using public tools, which I'm guessing is like the web apps that all of us, or are you, I'm guessing, God Morphy, your question is like, are there kind of comfy, kind of proprietary workflows, like in terms of how you
Oh,
present to the business?
it's all of it. There's on a client side, if you're working with a studio or with client X, there's going to be restriction based on what the project is. So that defines the stack, and it defines the what we're using. If it's all up to us, then, and we have no limitation, of course we're going to go to what works best for the specifics of the aesthetic that we're going for, the concept that we're going for, and we are building proprietary tools and workflows in-house that we use and test and do things with and stack. And we have our own node-based system. We have our own things, but also we have a really strong relationship with all the tool makers. And, in some cases, if there's big clients involved, but there's leverage and there's interest in creating new use cases with new, previously unreleased versions of tools or stuff that can be sandboxed in partnership with maker A or maker B, and that becomes like the first instance of this before it becomes public. So there's a lot of things happening. But it
Gotcha.
depends.
I'm seeing questions that aren't quick answers coming up in the chat right now. But I'm going to try. And Steven, I'm just going to give it a couple minutes, and Davide, you have to go anyway. But the question about the monetization of the future, which means we're pulling out the crystal ball. I think I think that Substack would go out quickly if somebody had it all figured out. But I'm going to guess that what you're doing with Children of the Earth is an example of like we now have a chance to own IP and share it and control. But anything you would add to like how is anything evolving beyond like the YouTube creator economy model that I think everything's settling into to a degree. But is there anything you're seeing novel as how as to answer Dennis's question about the realities of monetization for the future? Somehow this sounds to me like an hour-long conversation, but I thought I'd throw it back to you. Just in
Yeah,
case.
I think you need to understand the multi-stream model. It's like it's not just a matter of just getting X amount of millions in dollars to go and shoot something, because at the end of the day, how much of that is going to come back into your pocket? But like if you can front load as much as you can out of your own pocket through smart ways of producing it, and then guarantee yourself like it's the Lucas model. Like he didn't give away the rights for Star Wars, and made his life work from merch and toys. Like that still holds, and it holds
Ownership.
whether it is a movie, whether it is a TV show, whether it is animation, or whether it is music. We're now at a point where you can build entire universes of synthetic artists and create the music, create every video that looks like an interconnected episode of something that is much bigger. And if you have the right attention, you can go and drop your character into Fortnite. Like that's $100 million deal. It's, what makes that difference from John Wick dropping a Fortnite? Like if people like it, people like it. It's the same reason of why The Back Rooms is getting made into an A24 movie. The same reason of why Michael Bay bought Skibidi Toilet. For as stupid as it might sound, it's a $250 million franchise yearly from weird heads coming out of a toilet. Like if you pitch that in a room, nobody's going to give you money for it. But just remember, if you think you have a stupid idea, remember that somebody once pitched a tornado full of sharks and they made 15 of those. So.
Yeah, I'd say if anybody wants to make the Skibidi Toilet movie, I believe the 6-7 movie is the play in 2026. But that's just me.
5-year-old, and I am very, very aware of the 6-7.
They sell the hats at the mall. I'm just saying the merch is selling itself. We could go on, and you are such a generous voice in the space. Every time I see you on panels, I always feel like you hold space and really speak as a walk the walker. You're creating you're not just theorizing, you're doing, and I think you invite others into it. And I hope you come back and answer all the questions about monetization. We all like money. But this is incredible to get to know you. I know if somebody wants to hang out over your shoulder and look at your node-based system, so I'll let them reach out. But that's getting more. But and Rahul, sorry, I have to move over to Stephen. I know more questions. But if you can stick around even in the chat, maybe some of these are questions you don't mind asking in the text. I know you have to run, but thank you for jumping in today. And
thank you so much. I literally have to jump in 1 minute for a presentation in 3, so can't stick around any longer. But thank you so much for the opportunity, and let's do this again anytime. Reach out.
Appreciate you. All right.
Awesome. You have some cool stuff coming in the near future, so I shall be back.
Yeah, we hope so. Well, thank you for that, Davide, and Stephen, thank you for your patience. I hope you have you're cool with
Thank you so
time.
much, Stephen.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye.
I'm going to bring you up, Stephen. Now we get to see your amazing. Are those CDs, DVDs? What's going on back there? There's all kinds of stuff.
Books, records, CDs. Yeah,
the best.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's some 8 tracks. Listen, I'm just going to transition. Before I do, really quickly, Ben Rellis wanted me to just throw something out for anybody in LA. Ben, if you're still there, do you want to do a quick shot for the UCLA event this Friday? And if you're not there, I will try. There's an event at UCLA. We've mentioned it in the WhatsApp chat. I'll drop a link to it. But for what it's worth, I'm doing a little speaking at the end of it. I'm interviewing David France, who's like a big documentary filmmaker who used deepfake technology in some very cool ways. But it's an interesting event. But Ben, if I missed your window when you were here, I'm sorry. But I'll drop the link while we're talking. Thank you for anybody in LA who's paying attention. But pivoting to you, Stephen, someone that I think Min may have bumped into you in SF originally, and then it was like coincidental when we were both talking to you because you're super interesting. And just like Davide, I think you didn't just show up. You've been grinding in so many ways. Your LinkedIn CV is mind blowing. little tiny companies like Pixar occupy your not too far distant paths. And I think all of that informs, again, the same question I'm kind of really interested in exploring with you is, what an opportunity all of us are gathering around and finding out, like, how does someone like you, with your point of view, in animation and gaming, and I think clearly you're building actual things, not just writing scripts, so to speak. I mean, you're building hardware, you're building software. How are you seizing this moment? And I think that really exciting to get to know you on those terms.
For
Turning it
sure.
over to you.
How am I seizing this moment? So I started working with AI, pre-Gen AI, in the late 90s, and working on what is now called artificial general intelligence, with a guy named Ben Goertzel, who, if you don't know him, look him up. He's a very interesting character, friend of 35 years. And, you know, I've sort of always been at the interface of technology innovation and creative innovation. Um, at Pixar, that was kind of like what we were always doing. I was the studio creative head at Telltale Games, where we were trying to do uh, generative and reactive AI driven subplots within Telltale Games 10 years before generative AI really hit the scene. At Hanson Robotics, I designed the personality and mind architecture for the Sophia Android, which started actually with ChatScript and proprietary code, and then ultimately became ChatGPT 1, 2, etc., and kind of grew up along with that, and also still proprietary code. And so all along, like, I've been trying to figure out how to get AI into the filmmaking process. And we've tried a bunch of different things over the years. I mean, going all the way back to a couple called the Thalmans out of Switzerland and Synthespians. Like, there's been all of these attempts to try to make this happen. And even at Genvid, when I started there, we looked at doing a bunch of stuff with expert systems, camera expert systems, motion expert systems, building off of what we had done on Telltale, which we called auto acting, which was triggered libraries with trigger points and all this sort of stuff. So all of this kind of various ideas around automation, proceduralism, different forms of AI, how to not just make production cheaper, but also do things that couldn't be done before. Like, that's really the exciting part for me. Have been building up to now with the quickly escalating capabilities of diffusion models for video and LLMs for prompt quasi understanding. That it's really come together, where, to seize the moment, to answer your question, in December, we released to the public through our company Genvid the 23-ish minute film, The Seeker, that I did, which was done entirely almost with Gen AI. Like, basically, all of the imaging is Gen AI, and to answer people's questions, Midjourney and Flux, and then later Nano Banana, because I made it before Nano Banana came out, used it a bit at the end for imaging. VO2 and then 3, Kling 1.6, then 2.1, then 2.5, and a little bit of Runway was the tech stack in terms of the models. And 23 minutes, did all of the voices in world AI, because compared to 11 Labs, I was able to do 22 minutes of voices, multiple takes for $1, which was a quite lovely price point. And the music is all myself with Suno. And then we replaced 2 of the in-world voices with actresses to play the character there with the black helmet, the Seeker, and another character called the Stranger. And then I did the editing in Premiere, and a awesome sound designer named Will, who we've worked with also on Silent Hill Ascension, and DC Heroes United. Actually, no, sorry, only on DC Heroes United. Did the sound mixing and editing, and some of the Foley, a lot of the Foley that wasn't done with either Kling or VO. So I released that with Genvid in December, and then also while we were making the Seeker, Jerry, who's on the call with me and I and a team, built the Genvid studio grade production tool. So I took a bunch of my experience working on workflows at Pixar, where I had 4 patents and workflow innovations at Pixar, had been part of one of the leads on a big project to redo the entire animation system for end to end, like applied that thinking to the frustrations I was having with the workflows of Gen AI tools. And so we created the Genvid Studio Grade production tool to kind of solve a lot of those problems that I was facing with workflows in Gen AI. And if you'd like, Fred, I'm happy to do a quick like blast through of what the tool actually looks like and does.
That'd be great, and I'd hand it back over to you. I mean, maybe before we leave the Seeker, a little bit of kind of tapping into some of the stuff Davide talked about. I mean, where does that sit on like what dreams may come? You're finally getting to make your own movie, or I don't know. I'm just curious where that specific
Totally.
idea comes from, and where does that, where was that process expressing that type of opportunity?
Yeah. So I am I'm very bullish on you can now make things that you've always wanted to make. The Seeker, like, we didn't have a creative partnership, so all of our stuff was costed out. So I can tell you, generation credits about $2,000. Except for my time, all of the rest of the hard costs about $6,000. And that was the entire 22-minute film. Like, making a 22-minute film for $8,000 with live action or traditional CGI, like, is a lot of calling in favors, and it's not gonna look like The Seeker did, most likely. And so I have, I don't know, 400 scripts and treatments and ideas that I've worked on over the last 20 years. But honestly, where the idea for The Seeker came from was I started doing another project, and we had a deadline for Genvid because we were going to show this. And it was very stylized animation, and it just looked like crap. Like the models, 9 months ago, 10 months ago, just were not ready to render that look on a consistent basis. So I started doing experiments in VO and Kling, and I love sci-fi, and The Seeker is in the subgenre of AI films that I call helmet films, along with Remo Green and Echo Hunter. Um, and I was like, what can I do that is interesting, but that owns the limitations of what the models today can do, today being last July. And I created a sequence that's in The Seeker where The Seeker and a green alien are in a cafe. And I generated that, and I generated shots, and I got shots that look credibly like shots that you might see in a film, put them together, wrote dialogue for it, and then I was like, this could be a movie. And then I went back and wrote the script for The Seeker, which is a philosophical sci-fi about the nature of what it means to be human and perception and thought, which is like what a lot of the stuff that I write is about. So like it was sort of in the general thematic of the things that I like to create, philosophical sci-fi or like any kind of sci-fi, action, comedy, whatever, that really draws upon the ideas of, in a world of, machines and all of this progress that we're seeing, what does it mean to be human? A lot of my stories have characters that are machines that are more human than the human and are the antagonist who draws the human towards their humanity. And that's no different in The Seeker. And so like I did these tests, wrote the script, and I was like, this is credible. And then sat down. Seeker took about 6 desk weeks to make. Of my time, about 3 or 4 of Will's time as the audio guy. 3 weeks of an editor doing nothing and then rage quitting. Um, and that was the production process for Seeker. And yeah, and like we set really hard constraints. Like we had very tight cost controls and schedule controls because we set we had deadlines and we had budget limits. And so like for example, in The Seeker, there's no shot that has more than 50 generations. which is
Hmm.
super low for a lot of Gen AI films of a year ago, and even now. And it was really an exercise in filmmaking and low budget filmmaking where I look at Pixar. We effectively had infinity dollars, and we could do things like I would like this one pixel to be 3% bluer, and you'd just go and do that ad infinitum, and it was amazing, and we made really cool stuff. But I'd also done low budget filmmaking, and I approached The Secret that way, where I was like, I am telling a story. I am not directing the colors of pixels, and I am just going to have to make decisions based on what my virtual film crew is capable of, right? Like I can't be like I don't have the budget to do the AI equivalent of, this DP is no good. I'm going to get Roger Deakins, right? Like, like I didn't have the budget to do the AI equivalent of like, this acting sucks. I'm going to go and get, whatever, Alan Rickman. Like it was just, you had the crew and the cast and the budget you had, and you're like, I'm going to tell a story and I'm going to make it happen. And so it was really a mindset exercise as well to understand and accept the limitations of what Gen AI could do at the time and tell a story with that, as opposed to, God damn it, by hook or by crook, I'm going to make something that looks exactly like Star Wars, but different, right? Like it was a completely different approach where it's like, I have written a story based on these explorations, and now I'm going to tell that story. And that is going to be the focus of this, as opposed to, like making an escalating tech demo for the models based on like what was the most cool thing that I could get it to do that week.
So I think that movie, we got to see a trailer of it. I'm guessing we have to pay $20 to see the rest of it, which is okay, and that's your answer to monetization, perhaps. But the I feel like that's similar to Davide's journey of where he's showing us his work, but you have this amazing product. I think I'd love you to shift into demo mode, because I think then that's the other example of what happens when we have all the data of your lived experience of what do we do with this opportunity.
Yeah.
I'll let you take over the screen share.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Let's see. I do this right. Okay, so here we go. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Great. Awesome.
So what are we looking at here? What is Genvid?
So Genvid is, what did you say earlier? Is this going to be the year of the workflow? I guess maybe. Genvid is a workflow wrapper product that solves problems for people who are trying to make professional productions. It could be as something as short as a bumper. It could be something as long as an entire TV series, could be a feature film, could be a commercial. But the concept behind it is that you have a production that is not just like a personal project. And there is nothing wrong with personal projects. I have many. It's not a value judgment, it's an approach. And so, because the ideas behind what's going on in the Genvid tool are to be able to manage, control, and understand your production. And so the thing we're looking at right here is a dashboard of the overall picture of this test production called The Clever Mongoose. And if you are a producer or a director and you want to get an overall view of what's going on with your show, that's what this page is all about. It's telling you an overview of your shots with first frames, what has videos, what has dialogue, what has approvals. It's giving you a budget overview because notes, approvals, budget are all important part of the Genvid tool. You can do assignments to artists. So you can go through, you can see that there are things that need to be assigned to a particular artist. You can give them an assignment, and then that artist can go and work on that, set it in progress, and so on. And so you're getting your overview of your show. Here is a grid that's telling you scenes and shots, what has first frames, what has video, what has dialogues, and blue is approving a pendle, green is pending approval, green is approved. So you get a snapshot overview of the production status of your show. Same thing with all your assets. Are your assets approved? How much media is in them? And so on. So then as an artist and making this production, you can start diving in. The paradigm of the tool is you can start with a screenplay. If you start with a screenplay, you can write your screenplay in this tool. This is a Fountain.io capable screenplay editor. You can also import from anything that exports Fountain.io or directly
I think
import Final Draft.
just to interrupt you for a second, some people are saying it's a little bit small on their screen. There might be a way to either zoom in or hit like a expand something.
Let's see. Hang on. Is this better?
Fred, I think you need to unpin Steven because he's taking up half the screen.
Copy that. I will.
Not a comment on not wanting to see Steven, but like, yes, there.
Is that,
Okay, thank you.
better, everyone?
Feedback always welcome, family. Thank you.
Cool. All good? All right, great. Sorry. So yeah, you can edit your screenplay in the tool. Once you have a script or at a point where you're happy with that progress, you can break it down. Another thing that it'll do is if you make edits elsewhere in the tool, you can sync that back to the script. So the idea is that the screenplay and the actual production breakdown of the show are always in sync. So if you write your screenplay and later on you add shots, split shots, delete shots, it should sync that back into the screenplay. Same thing with assets. So the screenplay is broken down by a process that involves LLMs into assets and storyboards. Assets are things in your show like cast members, set dressing, locations. So as you can see in this one here, we've got some characters, we've got some locations, and this is built on a data model that's kind of similar to the Pixar data model that tracks what's in your show, what are assets, what are shots, and there is referencing between assets and shots so that two things. One, the referencing allows you to have a more facile path to character and location consistency because you're actually referencing the assets into your shots. So you're referencing in the reference images or LoRa's into your shots. And also it allows you to do tracking and analysis and planning. So you can say things like, how many shots is this Cobra in? How much has it cost me to generate the Cobra and all the shots that are in? And is it worth it if I want to make a change to change the Cobra and change all the things that it appears in, all of the references? So it gives you a way to make decisions about your overall show based on where things are referenced. So like, you're not just like, I'm going to just keep changing this Cobra and not really accounting for the downstream effects. So in creating the assets, you have an editor. It is, you've got a budget for everything. You've got your prompts in here. Got your status. People can make comments on it. So like directors, producers can make comments on each of the assets. You can choose the generation models that you want. We have a bunch. We add more as interesting ones come on, but we've got the usual suspects here: Nano Banana Pro, Imogen, Seedream, Flux, a diagram. And so you can use that to generate these asset images. And when you approve them, when you click green here, green check to approve them, those become part of this asset packet, which if you've worked in the industry before, the asset packet is all of the approved reference art for a particular asset, which of course in Gen AI becomes your actual inputs to things such as creating first frames. So the storyboard view allows you to take a look at the breakdown of your shots. So these are all of your shots, different scenes, different shots, and gives you an overview, speaker and dialogue, direction, and so on. And actually, I should show you one more thing about assets. The other thing that we do that I think is super cool about assets is we have this lineage viewer that lets you look at all of the iterations that you had in generating this asset. So you can go back and look at old iterations and be like, what did I do when I tried to make this thing earlier? Like, I kind of like this thing I abandoned over here for something else. I'm just going to copy this prompt and go and use that somewhere else and not forget about it and have to figure out what the hell I was doing and recreate it from nothing. So it gives you a whole breakdown of like how, like, what was your work? Like, how did you get here? Which is super useful compared to I have to go back through 86,000 individual flow tiles and see what the hell they were all about. Um, so then your assets can be pulled into your storyboards, your first frames. So you have your overall overview of your shot be viewed from here, and then you can go in and you can create keyframes, first frames, last frames, etc. Similar to the asset creator, you've got you can use prompts to be able to generate and manipulate images, but this is layered. It's similar to a simplified version of Photoshop or the layers in Midjourney. So you can go in and for creating your first frames, last frames, etc. You can go in, you can pull environments in. My network does not love the load of everyone on this call plus this. There we go. LA, why is our network infrastructure from the 50s? And then you can pull in a character into this scene, resize it, create your layers. You could go in and manipulate this with AI prompts. You could do things like remove the background of the characters, position them, etc. And you can make these frames, right? Do these frame layouts, merge and save once you've got all of your layers into a state that you like. That becomes a keyframe saved keyframe. And now you can go ahead and use the saved keyframe in your shot production. With dialogue, you can either upload studio dialogue or you can generate. This is 11 labs in here. You can assign voices to characters for doing generative dialogue, or you can go and upload stuff that you've recorded in the studio, and be able to add dialogue to your videos. And then in terms of actually generating the shots in the generator, you go to video editor. And again, you've got text prompts, first frames, first, last, references, text only, first, last, references, whoops, edit and upscale. So you can do all of the usual suspects in here, video prompt. You can choose your models. Not sure why the model pull down is not working, but you can choose your models. We've got Kling, VO, C-Dance, LTX, a bunch of other stuff. And we add models all the time. And if you're a customer and you want a particular model added, you can just put in a support request. And that's kind of the overview of what we're doing right now. There is a to be coming feature, which is a simple timeline editor. So you can do first assemblies and you can do things like align dialogue audio on one track with a video on another track and send that to be align synchronized. We'll be integrating syncs, lip sync tool into that. And there is also a forthcoming feature that will allow you to apply your own comfy networks as basically effectively a model in your pipeline. So, and more to come as well.
I see the workflow crowd enjoying this in chat. Obviously, jump in if anybody has questions about. I mean, I think a lot of us. I mean, Alan, we did a interesting little emergency session the other day on Claude Claude Code, where you showed off some of the workflow tools you're building. Just curious, like, how are people, obviously jump in and get curious to learn about the tool. I mean, but interesting, I think workflow is sort of either totally obvious as a thing that everybody should be putting all their energy towards, and I think then some people are like, but isn't it just about to get completely flipped open a month later? So it's its own kind of like walking on ice feeling when we all get very comfortable on a like, oh, this is how it works. How do you maybe, I mean, you're pretty savvy. I think you're aware of what's going on in this space. And I think there's an inherent sort of nimbleness to what you just presented. But how do you, as a builder, think about that? That we're in this like, this some agentic tool come along that totally changes our way of how this works in the first place.
So I will share one other thing quickly. I won't play this whole thing because it's 5 minutes, but agentic tools like this right here is a video of, in the development environment, Jerry having an agentic conversation about the status of a Genvid project and talking to the agents about what's going on in terms of like budget status and shot status and all of that sort of thing. So like, for starters, with what we're doing, like, we're already planning for the quote unquote agentic future. The background, the underlying architecture is an agentic architecture. We've already started working on different agentic chat concepts. There's other features that we're working on behind the scenes as well that are future facing. But what I will say overall about, oh, our workflow 2 is going to get completely upended and so on. So like, the human mind is not evolving as quickly as Gen AI models. And how you think about wanting to run a production is unlikely to evolve radically compared to how productions have been being managed for 100 years. Right? The big change people are like is like conversational interfaces, right? So it's like you're talking to assistants. But you've always talked to assistants, right? So like, and in talking to assistants, you've always wanted things like notes and deliverables. So integrating the concept of chatting with virtual assistants into notes and deliverables in a system that structures your production is just a natural implementation of traditional 100-year-old ways that we work together as people with the concept of AI agents that can perhaps do some of this work. Like, the workflow tools are all organizing the way that we operate for the human mind and putting wrappers around the Gen AI tools that allow people to have a way of working that works for them, that provides structure. Because one of the big frustrations with starting to try to make stuff in all of the other tools that are out there that led to the Genvid tool was, I've got 5 different models. They all name things differently. They all put them back into, like, they end up in this big pile of, in my Mac, of just thousands and thousands of stupidly named files. I don't know what anything's associated with unless I spend the time to type it in by hand, which, fuck that. Sorry, pardon me, but like, and like, to do the referencing, I'm copying images by hand between 5 different interfaces, and like, it's just a shit show. And so like, why not take the things that the models do that are awesome, access it through their APIs that they have graciously given us, and put things around it that enable a sensible workflow. Like, just the lineage graph is a relatively new feature. And man, do I wish we had implemented that day one, because it's super useful. And just having useful things like that make you a better AI filmmaker, because you have at your hands the kind of information that you would have if you had a big production, is sort of the point, right? Like, it's with the models, you've got your on-set crew in a box. And with the stuff that people are doing with workflows, in particular us, because we're obviously the best, you now have your production crew in a box, right? You've got your PAs and your script supervisors and producers and all this sort of stuff, of course, you still like. I agree with Davide. You still need people heavily involved, but like you've got all of these tools to facilitate these ways of making productions and organizing productions that make sense because you have to just keep track of things. You have to know where they are. What are they called? What are they related to? If I change this, what breaks downstream? How much does it cost? Like these are important questions when you're not just earning free creator program credits to make some images of your dreams, which by the way is awesome. But there's also people who have like are trying to do this for a living. And like that's what the tool is for people who are trying to do it for a living.
Cool. I'm mindful for time in case the inevitable Gen Talks drift is tough on anybody, including you, Stephen. So please give it. Or how are you on time? Or do you have to be anywhere?
I'm good right now. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And Alan, I see your hand, but just because it might be a quick question, I believe Danny had a quick admiration comment, but also just quick asking: is the focus B2B or B2C for Genvid?
So for the company, so the focus of the tool is sort of B2B. I mean, one person could use it. Like I use it by myself, right? Like without having a big team. But also the customers are production companies, ad houses, studios, people who need to like having notes and approvals. Like whether if you're one person and you have clients, you want notes and approvals. Like you want to track all that stuff. You want to know what your client said about your work so that you can deliver what they need. And in terms of the company overall, we also have and an audit trail and how much it cost and was it worth it. And if you're working with a multiple artist team, you can lock in which models they can use, and you can also restrict how much money they can spend. So if you've got that one artist who just always goes to VO3 and just spends like 50 million generations, you can stop them and actually make them focus on ROI as a producer. And then the company also has a B2C side where we make productions. Like we won an Emmy Award in 2024 for a show called Silent Hill Ascension that was an interactive TV show mixed with web and mobile gaming. We made another one like that called DC Heroes United the following year. We are out working on and pitching other productions as well. So like we dog food our own tooling because we also make productions that are intended to be seen by audiences.
Sorry, what did you say? We dog food our own tool?
Yeah.
I've never heard
You
that
don't know this
expression. I love that.
the engineering term. It's eat your
I
own
love
dog
that
food.
term. I don't know what it means, but I want to say it. What does it mean?
It means eat your own dog food.
Got it.
You can't just feed it to the dogs. You got to try it yourself.
All right, that's the hottest quote of today's episode. Love that. Alan, title, I'm guessing a great question.
Well, you're singing my song. I mean, this is exactly the space that I'm in right now. So well done, great stuff, and you've definitely taken it, made it multi-user is great and everything like that. But I'm really interested in how you're. Two things. One is when you're building this agentic assistant, what architecture are you using? Because I have a co-pilot built into my system that I've been developing, and then also about how you track artist work. That having a multi-client app, how do you track time that an artist spends on a certain shot? How does that work?
So first of all, the architecture is all MCP, and so to track time and so on and so forth. The thing that producers can most reliably track, and which is what we track in the system, and you could track time, by the way, but what people do most reliably track is deadlines and budgets. And so like the cost tracking and controls are specifically there to prevent the budget overruns, right? Like if you budgeted $50 for this shot, the artist then needs to be like, I gotta figure out how to make this shot in $50 as opposed to I'm just gonna run the tab up infinitely, which is also a time restrictor. But then if things go past deadline, then they start lighting up yellow and red, and the producer can get a snapshot of that as well. So and you can look at like obviously you can also look at how many days or weeks a particular thing took to make. The trick there is artists usually have multiple assignments. And unlike traditional ways of CGI production, Gen AI has a lot of minutes of not hands on a keyboard, not hands on a mouse, so you couldn't really do, which I hate anyway, but you couldn't do input stroke tracking to try and figure out when they're actually working on one project or another, because there's so much time spent just firing stuff off and letting the models run. So it's more deadline hit or not, budget hit or not.
Copy. And as far as like the agenticness of it, like, how do you manage the knowledge? Is there wisdom built into the system? Can it learn from itself? Can you teach project by project how to do that project or that character? Or is it only image based?
So more of what you're talking about is in the future project roadmap. The architecture is there. The data is being gathered. The learning algorithms are starting to be implemented. Some stuff is being learned behind the scenes already. You can do LoRa's, so you can do LoRa applications but that right now is more of an enterprise feature because we've got like a basic team and an enterprise tier. But yes, we are also, for the agentic side, which as you saw is still in the dev tree, are building up not just the conversational side of the agents, but the knowledge and learning side of the agents.
We should talk about that. I'll ping you.
Right.
I think we're kind of right on the edge. Some people are, I guess, got to get back to work. I mean, any things you would throw back to our community, Stephen, as you have been spending time with us in the chat, or any ways people can work with you? I mean, you're already really introducing us to ways that you're building, and we might want to be the C's in your B2C in some cases. But I don't know, just how can people keep? Obviously, we'll just follow you on social. That's one answer. But what's going on with you, and how can people get involved?
For sure. So one thing is, if folks are interested in talking more about the tool and following what we're going on, follow us on LinkedIn. Myself, Jerry Hines, who's on this call, who is our CIO who built this.
And sorry, I didn't realize that about Jerry, and you've been in the chat. Jerry, did you want to hop up and say anything? I mean, sorry, I should have had you both on while we were talking about your tool.
It's all good. Stefan does a great job representing it. I'm just here to add color commentary.
Got it.
But yeah, you can follow us on LinkedIn, and Jacob Navok, our CEO. Obviously check for updates on the Genvid website. If you want to talk about enterprise offering, just reach out to us. And if you want to just dive in and start using the tool, you can go to genvid.com, and the basic and team tiers are just self-service. Just sign up and start doing stuff. If you file a help request, bug report, and you put, "Hey, we were on your machine cinema call," we'll give it a little extra look. So that's our enticement to all of you, what lovely people, for showing up. We don't currently have a Discord, though that's not the worst idea in the world. But right now, I would say follow us on LinkedIn, PM us on LinkedIn. And also, we do a fair amount of events, so just come and introduce yourselves at events. Jerry, any other thoughts in terms of that?
I don't think so.
Cool.
I'm just going to say, Jerry, thank you for probably correcting me where I guess Stefan was too nice to correct me. I've been calling you Stephen this whole time, and now I'm that guy. My wife, people mispronounce her name all the time, so I'm sorry if I
No
get your
worries.
name wrong. It's Stefan, everybody, and I am the shoe in my mouth of the end of this call. Thank you, Jerry.
And we would love people to dive in and use the tool. It's version 1. It came out now almost exactly 1 month ago.
Yep.
There are we're in a phase right now where we're super receptive to feedback. Bug reports, ideas, features you'd like to see, like if you're in there using it. we're going to be pretty responsive to your thoughts at this stage, because there's still a lot of interesting feature roadmap ahead of us that I think people are going to find quite exciting. Like the timeline stuff is work in progress. It's going to be out in the not too distant future, but not immediately. And it's going to be pretty cool. Like, because then you'll be able to do a whole first assembly, and do things like align the audio per clip to the lip sync, and really do a first pass of your entire show before exporting to editing, which I didn't show you that button, but there's a button that will export your entire project, your entire show, your entire project as a EDL and files for Final Cut, Premiere, Resolve, whatever.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And I've seen some other really well advanced kind of editing tools, and what I'm hearing from just the B side of the B2B, the second B, is just how much people appreciate it when it does just slide right into Premiere or Avid, and so it's super smart to be creating that slippery entry.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. And again, sorry for getting your name wrong.
No worries.
But thank you, Jerry, for correcting us. But also, thank you for just the confidence you bring into how you build and how you're creating. There's so much to learn from the way you learned from your own past. I think all of us appreciate you coming here to talk about it. And thanks everybody as always. Thanks for showing up. I mean, really good turnout today. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. Always reach out if you have feedback on the quality of my mic or things that we can do better here. But anyway, great seeing you all. Have a good
Thanks
rest of your
everyone
week.
for coming. And don't please, if you want to ask any questions, talk about anything, just reach out on LinkedIn. I'm terminally online, so my wife will be mad at you, but I'll get back to you. So
All right, take care, everybody.
thanks everyone.
Bye all.